Hello and welcome back everybody. Thank you so much for watching my previous episode. If you didn't, no worries. You can watch this one and let me know what you think in the comments below. So stay tuned.
Final visit against the vision of Hubble into the deepest grandeur of our universe.
Houston now controlling Atlantis on its way.
Bypass across the board, Scooter, no action.
So hello and welcome back everybody and welcome to my channel. I'm the Celestial Swede. So what is new on the Gilet Jaunes news? Well, for instance, the masses are lining up at the ATMs to withdraw their hard-earned cash just to piss off the fucking globalist bank cartels who run Europe. Hats off to Gilet Jaunes and the Yellow Vest movement. What you're doing is world changing. The elite and the globalists are not used to us rising up like France is doing, and this has the bank cartel absolutely terrified of the repercussions this might have. But this gives me great worry because this can lead to a massive bank collapse, and in a historical periphery, I hope that this does not end like it has done in the past for us working people. The banks has always come back with a vengeance when being opposed, like the Federal Reserve in the US. Interesting article here from Christopher Gilet. I'm not sure if I pronounce his name correctly, but please bear with me. The Gilet Jaunes are unstoppable. So the Gilet Jaunes, the Yellow Vest movement, has rattled the French establishment. For several months, crowds ranging from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands have been taken to the streets every weekend across the whole of France. They've had enormous success extracting major concessions from the government. They continue to march. And as suspected, there is no surprise as why the public service and media does not want you to know about this. Why the public service and the media are ignoring this issue when they are supposed to be on our side and unbiasedly cover news. So why this is happening is actually an interesting question, and it's mind-boggling to me how they can keep this agenda up and ignore the fact that hundreds of thousands people are actually protesting in France right now. It can't be clearer than this. They are obviously biased against us. Back in 2014, geographer Christopher Gilet's study of La France périphérique, peripheral France, caused a media sensation. It drew attention to the economical, cultural and political exclusion of the working classes, most of whom now live outside the major cities. It highlighted the conditions that would later give rise to the Yellow Vest phenomena. Spite caught up with Gilet to get his views on the causes and consequences of the Yellow Vest movement. Technically, our globalized economy model performs well. It produces a lot of wealth, but it doesn't need the majority of the population to function. It has no real need for the manual workers, laborers and even small business owners outside of the big cities. Paris creates enough wealth for the whole of France, but you cannot build a society around this. The Gilet Jaunes is a revolt of the working classes who live in these places. They tend to be people in work, but who don't earn very much, between 1,000 and 2,000 euros per month. Some of them are very poor if they are unemployed, others were once middle class. What they all have in common is that they live in areas where there is hardly any work left. They know that if they have a job today, they can lose it tomorrow and they won't find anything else. From my situation in Sweden, I can see that the lower income classes in Sweden are being treated exactly the same way. The taxes in Sweden reflect the hatred they have for us who live in the countryside.
Debatable.
Many think Sweden is a haven for egalitarianism and monetary freedom, but the reality is so vastly different than you might think. The Swedish population have among the highest amount of personal debts of all countries in the world. It's absolutely sickening. And as to why the Swedish population is so in depth, I can go into further detail in another episode if you might like, so leave a comment if you want to hear about that. So continuing. Spiked. What is the role of culture in the Yellow Vest movement? Guillaume. Not only does peripheral France fare badly in the modern economy, it is also culturally misunderstood by the elite. The Yellow Vest movement is a truly 21st century movement in that it is cultural as well as political. Cultural validation is extremely important in our era. So one of the cultural divides of the modern day era who Guillaume talks about, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but are example how progressive and social movements and protests are so quickly endorsed by the media actors and influencers, but none of them has come out and support the Gilet Jaunes. But of course everything looks so wonderful and great from the top of your 100 feet wall which you erected to not get the peasants in. I mean, do they only support agendas that help benefit themselves and the media maybe? I suspect so. It is exactly the same shock that the British elites experienced when the Brexit vote and that they are still experiencing now, three years later. The European Union is just a bank cartel. The only reason they exist and the political reasons for European Union is to maximize the profits of the elite. So for instance, when banks go bankrupt, they either have buyouts or buy-ins, meaning either that they take all the money that remains in the bank or they get subsidies from the state to prevent their bankruptcy from happening. So either way, we get fucked and we pay the price for their negligence. I mean, this has happened time and time again, and the banks have set up a system which they cannot lose in. It doesn't take massive amounts of effort to go back in history and see how many times the bank industry and the bank cartel has actually fucked us in the ass.
Give me your fucking money!
We have known this for many years. But continuing. The Brexit vote had a lot to do with culture too, I think. It was more than just the question of leaving the European Union. Many voters wanted to remind the political class that they exist. That's what the French people are using the Gilet Jaunes for, to say that we exist. We are seeing the same phenomenon in populist revolts across the world, because this is exactly the same reason why Trump won in the US. Hillary Clinton was a puppet to the establishment, and no one wanted her to be a president. It becomes all too obvious. The media nowadays and our politicians and leaders, they are not supporting the middle classes and the low income classes. They are supporting the elites and the top 1%. So thank you guys for watching today's episode. Hope you're looking forward to the next one. So my next episode will be about echo chambers, the 10-year challenge and the Facebook's terms and services. So I hope you stick around and watch my next episode. Thank you so much and have a great day.